methamphetamines.
You lied to me.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing groovy. I'm telling you straight. It's my way or the highway. So anybody wants to walk, do it now.
How in the name of Zeus's butthole did you get out of your cell?
Oh, come on! What the hell?
All right. It's showtime!
Oh, hello there! I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and amuse you? I make you laugh? What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
Oh, yes. Let's jump straight in here. Oh, yes. Hit the like, everybody. Share the show. Annoy the maggot in your neighborhood. And we are now live on Instagram. Are we up on Instagram? We're almost up on Instagram. There we are. And Substack's live. If you're live on Substack, let me know. Throw a little heart in the chat so I can see you there. I'm going to check that right now. Hopefully I won't get a loop back on stuff. It's always tough, man. It's always crazy. Okay. I know I made the music end too quickly. I understand that. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's HalSparks Mornings, Megaworldwide. Happy hump day to all of you. Welcome, Steph Heads, who are joining us, and Midas Touch people who might be, working their way through the neighborhood. I feel like if this was if modern democratic media was, a town in the Old West, I'd be the greeter sign. Like, Come on in. You've been out on the range for a little while. Sit a spell. Let me spin a tale for you. Speaking of tale, hi chat room. How you doing? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. Hi sparklers. Give a thumbs up. Let us know where you are. I'm having yes, thank you. I'm glad some of you love and some of you hate the shirt. I am having increasing difficulty finding shirts that I can wear on the show that cut out from the green screen because of the varying degrees of bluish greens that I favor all the time. And so I'm working on it, trying to expand the shirt repertoire for you, because I'm a giver, and that's the important thing. So thank you for being here. Wait, hold on. Let's see. And this is the quote of the week.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
I gotta say, like the swirling shithole of dumb that we are currently in right now is nothing short of shit-tacular, if I do say so my damn self. There seems to be, and these people are adorable, there seem to be a group of people in Trump world, and I guess they all woke up late this morning. Maybe they were hungover or coked out or something like that. Here's our Dow right now. Let's show you that little guy right there. There you go. Not good. Not good. It was like it was a lot higher than that. It was what was it? 45K. There we go. There was 44.9. That's a 7,000 point drop. That's not good in general. And it's not going to get better. Like everybody right now is trying to find the weasel route. So what's happening in the markets is people are trying to suss out which stuff is going to be exempt from the tariffs. And largely it's going to be some of the material tech firms like NVIDIA and the like. That's where a lot of people are like shuffling money. So while the amount overall in the Dow is going down slower than it was initially, it's because people are moving shit from one thing to another, hoping that some sectors will still survive, knowing full well they probably won't because of the supply shock that will be caused by this. And again, that's why we had inflation in the first place. It was not monetary inflation. The dollar wouldn't be over $1 if we had too much in circulation. Never, ever, ever in a market is the price of something going to go up because there's too much of it. And I'm not even talking about goods. I'm talking about the dollar itself. It's still at $1 We'll see how long that lasts. But the Dow is doing this, like everybody on Bloomberg and all these channels are like, well, there's two options. One is shit the bed. The other one is take everything out of this and put it in that. Because we don't think, though we don't know, that he can fuck that up. And everybody's like, okay, for about, 8 to 10 hours. Still, and you'll see a lot of this, like S&P's in the green, 0.02%. That's because it's bubbling near the bottom of what it hit before, and people are shuffling things around. They are rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Let's see, 1 year. Let's see, how about a month? How about this week? There you go. So this is the Dow according to Donald Trump. And by the way, I would like to remind you, because some of you apparently don't know this, but this is all Biden's fault. So just remember that while everything's happening. Just know that it's all Biden's fault that Marjorie Taylor Greene bought $250,000 worth of T-bills and moved all of her stocks into cash and treasuries 2 weeks before this happened. That's clearly, that was because of what happens when you combine the power of a Jewish space laser and pictures of Hunter Biden's penis. Like if you cross those streams, then you end up like just in a spell where you just magically know when the market's going to take a giant shit like this. It's funny that Anyways, hi chat room. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. Poor Joe Biden just destroyed everything on his way out the door. Here's the other thing too, is one silver lining of the trade war. The lowest mortgage rates in months. Of course, no one can afford to move because their job is probably going away. So, this is the, I think, well, why piss off? I don't need a Business Insider, you stink with your silly pages. There are a bunch of these folks, like every picture you see of Wall Street right now is just going to be people doing this and pointing. And there's a reason for that. And that reason is this fucking guy. Trump's tariffs trigger even more dangerous bond market. The president's supercharged levies on China are eroding investor confidence and hitting the reputation of U.S. Treasury bonds as a safe haven asset because he's an asshat. Let's see. This is also this. I know Musk's secret blueprint to destroy Social Security. That's in the Daily Beast today. We'll talk about this. This is. Okay, there we go. Let's try to do this. Trump pleads, we'll open this up. Trump pleads, be cool, as markets plunge more and Europe retaliates. What do you think we're ever gonna? What are the chances? What are the chances we're ever gonna see this motherfucker's trades before this happened? Like what Don and Eric did with the stocks that Trump owns right before this occurred. What do you think the odds are? What do you think? Anybody? Anybody? Show isn't streaming on YouTube. Substack is working. Oh, that's weird. It says YouTube is up, so it should be there. There's 1,000 people watching on there, so it should be all right. I might be shadow banned because they fear my power. So Trump pleaded with the public to be cool, as don't be a dope, man. Be cool. As Europe approved retaliatory tariffs against the U.S., Be Cool wrote, everything is going to work out well. The U.S. will be bigger and better than ever before. This is a great time to buy. So according to Donald Trump, this is also, well, we'll get there. This is the bottom. Secondly, no, it isn't. Thirdly, there's a reason why people go, this isn't financial advice, but whatever. That's so they don't get sued when you lose money. Maybe we can all just fucking sue this asshole now. He also quoted Jamie Dimon to say fixing trade and tariffs is a good thing. Yes, but obviously scalpel, not a chainsaw. The Wall Street wobbled again on Wednesday morning after Beijing announced a total levy of 84% on imports from the U.S. going into effect at noon after Trump raised tariffs on Chinese goods 104%. Europe followed suit by approving 25% import taxes on a wide range of products from America. It's a trade war. It's a trade war. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's a Trade War. Ladies and gentlemen, the new game show that will provide us with the kind of fear and trepidation that only people in the 30s could experience. That's right. Enjoy. So YouTube's good there. Okay. You thought about that? We should all do a big class action lawsuit of Trump seeking to find out if he had, his family bought and sold stocks and had knowledge beforehand. Don't count on the SEC going after him. Please. Although later it might be good. I think, he's definitely, as much as this bullshit about he's going to run again or that my favorite story, and I don't know how many people have heard the actual, the plan that has been discussed for how he would have a third term. He would not run as president. J.D. Vance would, with either Trump as VP, which I don't think you can do, or, hi, Rob, no more wars. Yes, no more wars. Right, Rob. That Trump would run as his VP, which he can't, or somebody else, some like dough-headed maggot sap as vice president. And then, wait for it, J.D. Vance, once he wins, would cede power to Trump. I know what you're thinking. How would that work? It wouldn't. It would not work. It would be very stupid. But sure, our contestants, what they can win. What can our contestants win? Cat food. That's right. A tin of cat food, the perfect meal for grandma in these trying times. That's right. These are the kind of victuals that only grandma can appreciate. And if she's been through 6 wars, she'll recognize that taste, and it'll like just like grandmama used to open. Yeah, and of course rice-a-roni, the San Francisco treat. Should run as a jailbird. Well, we'll work on that. Is the FTC still around? You're adorable. JD would have to win first, right? Which he won't. Again, because say what you will about Trump, but he has this kind of control over the maggots that no one else in the Republican Party has, which ultimately is a good thing because who wants to live forever? Right. So the index today, not good. That's not good. It's not this butthole right here, but it's working its way down there. It's trying to find a permanent visit to this area. 36. And it will find it if it isn't just all cocaine. I honestly think this hump right here is just cocaine. This is, of course, when the rumor came out that Trump was going to negotiate and he was going to pause everything before Tuesday. That didn't happen, so everybody's trying to, like, slowly, get out of everywhere, including, by the way, executives at some of these companies that can't sell their stock quickly or it will start a stampede. So those folks have to hold on to it, and they're just watching their money evaporate, which in the case of Elon Musk is kind of hilarious. So, and by the way, should we just check in there? Let's see. Search markets. TSLA. Let's look at that. Tesla. Look at this. 231. There we go. Start trying to look at the watch list. There we go. This is year to date. The 1 month. Woo. Can I just say, as 1 week? It's thinking about it. Yeah, there we go. Right in line. Oh my gosh, it's almost like it's this parallel twin. There's Tesla stock right there. Kapow, 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 floom, floom, floom. Maybe kapow, kapow. Maybe kapow, kapow. That's how it's going to work, by the way. Everybody who's buying back in on a bunch of these things because they think they're going to get a pass are they're smoking crack. There is no remedy in this situation. This is and by the way, in some companies like Apple and others, they are effectively being kneecapped by this bullshit, and it's almost like revenge against them having a gay CEO or something. I don't know what the fuck. Like Trump is anti-Apple when they were supposed to be so like anti-Bill Gates, right? I don't know. It used to be Team Apple or Team Microsoft for a long time, and now they're just like fuck everybody. It's going to set the tech sector back 10 years, but the idea is that we're 16 years ahead of everybody, so it'll wipe everybody else out, which it won't because again, the chip manufacturing machines that TSMC uses are largely made in South Korea or in Northern Europe. They're not going to have a problem. We're either going to have to carve out something for that portion of Europe and for South Korea, or we're just going to have to, I don't know, learn how to work a flint and steel again. That's the issue. And by the way, the Major couldn't be on this morning for the first hour. He's going to join us, but he's got a campaign thing, which is awesome. And Philip Bittner will be joining us in the second hour. And there's a bunch of news, obviously, around Ukraine and the like. Ukraine hit with a 10% tariff like Zimbabwe and fucking penguins. So we shall see. Ultimately, if everybody's in the same boat, nobody's hurt. It becomes a market leveler. And the idea is that money is going to, they can afford to hit us with a 10% back on only the important stuff. Because if Trump doesn't know, or his trade representative, this is the other problem. Okay, so let me explain something in chat room and see if this gets through to anybody. When you do a blanket fuck you tariff to everybody, you do not have enough trade representatives to keep track of all the variables in it. So a bunch of these smaller countries can hit you with smaller tariffs, and you'll be messing around with China and the EU while getting like death by 1,000 cuts from all these other countries doing 10% reciprocal tariffs on things, but they'll do them only on the things that are important coming into the country. And because Trump's White House isn't listening to fucking anybody except Peter Navarro, it seems. Honest to God, it seems like Navarro and Lutnick are the only people in Trump's ear right now. Everybody else is either, catering to his every whim, or they're fucking like not even allowed in the Oval at this point. And Navarro, being the dumbest of the two, Nutlick absolutely is stupid, but he has holdings in sort of the Treasury and bonds area. So if the stock market craters, it helps him. So this is Machiavellian, him messing with the markets. Navarro's just a fucking moron. So that's, they say what I think crowd. So Tesla's at 232.45 right now, up 4% from its bottom, which it was up, 30% from its bottom 2 days ago, and then down. So again, I gotta tell you, I love me some green stock trade symbols when everything is down, because it went up a 0.01% or a percentage or something like that, or it recovers back to a certain point before it dips off again. Because basically that means in the case of Tesla, all these fanboys are just having their money sucked right up a fucking chimney. So I don't care. There are real people to worry about. Ford stock is taking a hit. Who else? All the American stocks for like car companies are being beat to shit, which I don't think is part of the plan, but I honestly don't know. I don't think. Well, here's the thing. I don't think there is one, and we'll get to why that is in just 1 second. Let me get you through a couple of pieces of news, though, that I do want to share with you. It is apparently not a good idea, and I don't know why anybody would think, but apparently, so it comes as a shock to all of us. It is not a good idea to put a member of the real world in charge of the FAA. It's just not. Near collision investigation reveals Reagan National Airport controllers failed to stop flights during military flyover. This March 28 incident was in the same crowded Washington, D.C. space that was the site of January's fatal midair collision. New details first reported CNN renew concerns about the safety of military and commercial aircraft operating in close proximity and raise new questions about whether air traffic controllers in the nation's capital are too stressed in the wake of the worst U.S. air disaster in decades. And also, if Pete Hegseth has given any instructions except fuck them, they'll get out of the way, they're civvies, they don't matter, to his people. Because I would like to remind everyone that when you have a situation where commercial aircraft and military aircraft almost hit each other, and it's largely because of the military aircraft crossing the landing strip of the commercial aircraft, it's more on the military for not giving right away and paying attention and those kind of things. So I would argue that Pete Hegseth is as much on the line for this as anybody else. So, but I would go with, look, we all know that if Pam Bondi gets fired, it'll be a Kardashian running the Department of Justice at this point, or probably I don't Gary Busey. I believe that we should try people using a mind ray that I've made in my garage. So, yeah. A military jets flying more than 350 miles per hour came less than 3,900 feet laterally and 100 feet vertically from the Delta Airbus A319, which just took off from the airport and was still climbing, according to a source briefed on the incident. It sounds like they buzzed it just to be dicks, and that would not be surprising at all. There is a there's a really important aspect of this, and I know I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. But this kind of like machismo warfighter bullshit seeps into everything and creates a sort of military versus civilian class system, and where everybody's a maverick, right? That's concerning. I'm just saying. That's concerning. You know what's also concerning? This is a bit concerning. Ex-Trump advisor spills the dirt about the advisor who is steering the ship. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's former federal prisoner Peter Navarro, a.k.a. Ron Vara, who, according to this article, was considered something of a nuisance during Donald Trump's first presidency, according to Alyssa Farrah Griffin. So she's surprised to see him playing a major role. Peter Navarro is somebody who, in the first Trump administration, a lot of folks, frankly, would try to keep out of meetings with the president on high-level economic and trade decisions. There were some things Peter was very good at. He understands the threat of China. He would often get in the president's ear about being tougher on China, but he was somebody who, at times, would present ideas that were half-baked. Like the cookies somebody gave to Doug Burgum. How sad. And I can't remember whether it was the vice president, Pence's office, or Steve Mnuchin, or Lighthizer, the former U.S. trade rep, actively trying to keep him out of high-level consultations because he would bring information to President Trump that was not ready for prime time. It was a lie, or it was fake, or it was made up, or it was just stupid. Again, I would put information in quotes if I was writing this article. So the fact that he's sort of the leading force in front of these massive, like, global market-rocking tariffs is a bit concerning. I mean, everyone from Pence world to acting White House Chief of Staff Mike Mulvaney to other economic advisors to the president like Larry Kudlow, then Elon Musk, seem to get that this is not the guy they should have steering the ship. But I just remind you, there's a deep well of loyalty from Trump to Navarro. This is a man who went to jail, frankly, for refusing to comply with a congressional subpoena that would force him to testify against him. So I'm curious to see how long Trump stands by his man, or if he reacts more to the Elon Musk side of this. I think it's 100% loyalty. I think she's right in this, that he is just like Navarro went to jail for him. And so instead of just rewarding that loyalty with a pastoral job fucking off someplace, he's got his ear now, which is so fucking terrible. Griffin expressed surprise that Musk, who contributed more than $277 million of his own money to help get Trump elected, hadn't noticed his repeated promises to enact tariffs to the tech billionaire. I mean, Donald Trump, to his credit, literally telegraphed that what he was going to do on the campaign trail. Yes, that is the issue that I have. Is like these folks. We didn't vote for this. Yeah, you fucking did. You absolutely voted for this. He said it all the time, like it was cartoonish. And maybe it was so over the top, that's why you didn't believe it. But I got to tell you, like, all of us on our side of the aisle, all of us who are voting for Harris, were like, he means it. He's stupid. And it's ironic, I think, most of all, that his own people were like, he couldn't possibly be that stupid. That was literally a defense. They knew that the tariff shit he was talking was dumb, that it was wrong, that it was materially vacant of any evidence in every form. And so they assumed that this was just something he was doing to needle people or some bullshit art of the deal thing. I knew it wasn't. You guys knew it wasn't. But honestly, I don't know. And again, even if you believed it was a negotiating tactic, if you say it's a negotiating tactic, it's no longer a negotiating tactic because they know you're bluffing. So he had to go through with it, even if initially it was going to be a bluff. So there was going to be this hit to the market. If they, earlier today on one of the market channels, I think it was Bloomberg, one of the guys was basically saying, if we go down 5% more on stock like Apple, it'll be a permanent 20% hit to the stock. This is like Japan in the 90s. We will get something that is not possible to rebound because they won't even have the money to reshore their factories. So they will have to just jack up the prices on iPhones and their market share will go in the toilet. And this is basically handing over a huge chunk of the world market to Huawei or Apple, the Chinese Apple knockoff. ultimately, China, doing this so swiftly, the way he's doing it, more than anything else, is what benefits China the most. So, let's see, he bluffs and loses bigly. This is all true. Trump has no rhythm. Well, they thought Musk would have more sway. Maybe so. I think what they thought is that he would just turn Musk loose on parts of the government that he would undercut, which is partly true. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable. Let's see. Yeah.
Take off, eh?
Yeah, that a lot of them could go pound sand. By the way, to our European allies and our Canadian friends and our friends in Mexico and around the world, I would say this too shall pass, but it just started. It's going to be a long, bumpy road. This is as if COVID started in the beginning of Trump's term instead of the end, where someone else could come in and salvage the response. So, yes, hit that like. We're at the half hour mark. Remember, today's show is brought to you by cat food. It's just what grandma craves. Now, quick funny-ish sort of story. There's a lot of language being thrown around in Republican circles in these meetings. Like at one point, you'll remember Trump put a bunch of Republican House members that he couldn't find a way to make a deal with in a room at the White House and told them to work it out. And there was just a shit ton of yelling and nothing happened. And there was some swearage going on. But no F-bombs, no S-bombs have the power of the Jesus rebuke. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. GOP rep unloads at Johnson in closed-door meeting. I should hope the door was closed. You don't do a mass rebuking in the name of Jesus with the door all aflutter. Notice is reporting that emotions are running high in the Republican meetings over GOP budget, threatening to add up to $5.8 trillion to the nation's deficit. And by the way, this does not include what his plans for added border security on top of this stuff. Like they put stuff in there, but he wants more. He wants another trillion of military spending and potentially raise the nation's debt to 214% of GDP by 2054. Republicans typically run on lowering national debt. That's before Trump came to town. In a closed-door meeting with Republicans on Tuesday with a handful of lawmakers pressing Johnson to conference the House and Senate budgets, Johnson allegedly opposed a conference because he's in a hurry to pass the budget. Johnson hopes to fast-track the budget through the Senate's reconciliation process, in which budget-related legislation can pass with a simple 51-vote majority. He's not going to get that, though. They don't have the margin even for that in the Senate to raise the budget, raise the national debt $5.1 trillion. Parts of the budget, according to notice, included an unpopular executive action agenda that halts funding for many public services investments while hollowing out and politicizing civil service divisions. In addition, includes sweeping tariffs at the center on budget and policy the center on budget and policy priorities claims will cost low and moderate income families hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, more than offsetting whatever modest tax cuts they may receive from tax legislation. Modest tax cuts? I beg your pardon, dear sir, forget about it and read about it later. Modest is the greatest tax cut in the history of tax cuts, and the tax cuts have ever tax cutted in the history of tax cutting for the upper 15 or 20%. Everybody else is SOL. So they are modest. And they will be wiped out by the extra cost, because that's the point. Let me clarify this. I don't know why this isn't reaching everyone. The whole purpose of this is to transfer the debt burden that the rich currently have onto the average consumer. That's the point. The point is to take the income tax revenue out and replace it with a consumer tax. In terms of tariffs that are laid on the sort of mass stores that people shop at, ultimately that buy a lot of shit from China and other countries, namely Walmart. The cost overlay to Walmart as a corporation, and then what's passed on to their customers, they are hoping it is a 1-to-1 or a greater tax, at minimum a 1-to-1, but they want it to be a greater tax than any of these people will ever pay in fucking taxes on their income, because they don't make enough money to pay taxes. So that's what this is. This is the revenge of the billionaires, pure and simple. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. This whole idea like there's any pearl clutching going on here will cost low and moderate income families hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, is the point. That's the purpose of it. The Donald Trumps of the world think that everybody in the Midwest that voted for him and all throughout the South are a bunch of useless eaters who live on the government tit and it's their money. And Democrats, ironically, are always trying to take money from the Donald Trumps of the world and give it to poor white trash. And they want to put a stop to that. And they can't do it by just raising taxes on lower income people, which the vast majority of them, because of the racial makeup of the country, is white. So they can't do it directly. So this is an end run around that plan. That's what this is. It's a feature, not a bug. They haven't stumbled on an accidental problem in it. This is the entire root of how they want to address the funding of the government going forward. This is and it's also another way that they can, drown the government in a bathtub. The rising tension. Okay, the rising tension. This was the good part. This is the sweet part. The rising tension between GOP members over the controversial budget and the recent battle over a petition allowing new mothers to vote by proxy is prompting Republican infighting. At one point, Rep. W. Gregory Stube called Speaker Johnson a liar and said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," according to 3 sources, Meshach, Shadrach, and Glenn. I don't know if he called him a liar or he rebuked him in the name of Jesus. I hope he said the third one, he rebuked him again a third time before the cock crowed. Because if you wait till the cock crows, then, it sets off the porn app on Mike Johnson's phone. And then it gets really uncomfortable. So I honestly, there is some upside to the fact that these folks are. Hold on, this is I don't know what the fuck is notice. I guess it's notice of. Okay, hold on. Great, I'm gonna go in here and sign up for this thing again and diddly do, so that I can show you this stuff. Do you know how many things I have to sign up for so I can show it to you guys, so that you don't have to pay for this nonsense? Notice, which is the reports on government, whatever. This is the article that they were quoting at Notice. Trump and Johnson appear to be losing House GOP holdouts on the budget. They all, a bunch of them a bunch of them met with Trump on, when was it, Tuesday? I think they say in here. Yes, they met on Tuesday. Before, Liberation Day. They didn't have the votes to clear this threshold, even in the House. And they're desperately trying to get it through. And after meeting with Trump, the deal maker, who wants this bill to go through as quickly as possible, it didn't happen. I know, you're shocked. I am too. I'm flabbergasted. Okay. Let me see if I'll make this text a little bigger so I can show you guys. let's see. While at least 2 members who attended the White House meeting immediately flipped their votes, Greg Stube and Ron Estes and other Republicans were less convinced. So he switched his vote, and then as they continued to talk, he called Mike Johnson. So basically, he flipped his vote, and then when they got back to the office, it turned out to be bullshit, whatever they were discussing, whatever they were going to remove or move around. And so Stube called him a liar and said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," after that fact. There are significant people who are still opposed. Paging Chip Roy, the member granted anonymity to discuss details from the meeting, said Trump and his aides guaranteed lawmakers they would push the Senate to adhere to deeper cuts than the $4 billion floor proposed in the upper chamber's budget. Again, $4 billion? Even if they raise the debt ceiling $4 trillion, they have to cut $1 trillion from the budget in this cycle to pass the tax cut. But even with those assurances, this member said they did not think the Senate adopted blueprint would make it through the House, at least not without amendments, in which case they will send it back to the Senate, and the Senate will remove those things, and then they'll have to send it back to the House if they don't have enough votes, and then it will be past reconciliation. Hilarious. This is what screams mandate to me, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing says mandate like your own members going to the White House and walking out there going, fuck that. So, just brilliant. But I wish we had audio of that. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And by the way, we'll get to this a little bit later. I'm going to check out this business. This is an article on that notice thing or whatever, which and fuck me, like this should give you an idea. Okay, this is like, what the fuck? This the fuck, ladies and gentlemen. How the White House is planning to sell higher prices. One administration official said Trump would. I can't even read it. I can't bring myself to read it. I can. Are you? Look. Honestly, I'm like.
Oh, come on now. That ain't even bullshit. That's horseshit.
I feel like I'm Jim Cramering my way through this. I need like just the Hindenburg ring any bells. One administration official who just fucking say it, Mr. Transparency. Oh, by the way, Epstein files? No, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Publicly, President Donald Trump says everything is going to plan. It's just the panicans causing a ruckus online. Twitter is not real life, one Trump official told Notice, dismissing the administration's critics. Even as the stock market fluctuated wildly Monday at the insinuation the tariff regime would end. Privately, though, the White House is well aware of the tumult the trade agenda has caused. One GOP strategist who was in communication with the administration said they're putting out fires and they're working their networks who influence the narrative on social media platforms like X. Yeah, I know. That's why fucking, was it like Glenn Beck was on Pat Gray's show going, he talked to Trump for a half an hour about the stuff. He goes, I know you're not a trade guy, Glenn, but you really got to get on board with this thing. That's what they're doing. They're circling the wagons. They're not Glenn Beck, because he's a egomaniac, and as an egomaniac, I can say this without reservation. Well, take that back. I'm an egomaniac. He's a megalomaniac, and there's a difference. But Glenn Beck is one of those people like, the president's calling me to ask me about tariffs. And he's not. He's calling to tell you what you're supposed to say about tariffs. Asshole. And that's what he's talking about. They're putting out fires thing. He's calling the Rob Shits of the world on Newsmax and OAN and people like that and telling them, like, this is the bullshit we need you to sell so the market doesn't cadaver. So that at the very least, our voters leave last. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something, how like ferociously fucked up your opinion of your own voters has to be, that you want to make sure that they get out last. Instead of, the insider trading, you save for Don and Eric. You save for Ivanka and Jared. You save for Lutnick's pals. Anybody, all the members at Mar-a-Lago and Doral and the Saudis and that crowd. You let them know the date. You can set the bottom, essentially, by saying, we're not going to get started with this shit, until my birthday. We're going to turn around so that my birthday becomes big in the news. So June 14th, we're going to hang on to this shit until then, and then we're going to maybe see if we can, give them some relief. That'll be the bottom. Wait till then. That kind of news you get if you're a member of Mar-a-Lago or Doral or any of these groups. I guess, but not Musk because he's too mouthy. The insiders, the download people, the people that aren't actually in and around the administration, who aren't making the policy themselves. Again, Lutnick doesn't need to be told. He's one of the architects of it. So they know that you get this information. But you know who, and by the way, people on our side of the aisle that may have money that either they have a 401k and they're not going to take anything out of it for a while, so they're just going to lock in, ride it out. They may even buy stuff if they see a deal on a stock that they think has legs at some point. But they're basically just holding and fearful, especially if they live off dividends in any way. And then there's day traders who will fuck around with all this kind of stuff. But the Trump administration basically, if the Trump administration says to you or I, there's nothing to worry about. The exit's over there, but do not run for the exit. It would be very smart to run for the exit. Clearly, they're full of shit and you cannot trust them. And we know that. Maggots don't. If there's anybody who's going to get wiped out by this shit, it's going to be rank and file maggots. And that shows a massive contempt for your own voters. Now, maybe you think, like your rich friends, they can afford to go long on stuff. But you also don't realize that they have jobs with companies that are going to be wiped out, mid-sized and small companies that are going to be wiped out by this shit. That at least have one element of whatever they sell that comes from overseas, even if it's not all of it, one element. And if that one element goes up 40% in price, even if they spread it over the rest of their goods, they're not getting a deal on the other stuff. The other goods they're using to make their stuff, even if it's made in the United States, didn't suddenly get cheaper. As a matter of fact, it might get more expensive because the factory they get it from needs stuff from overseas to make the thing that they buy that's made in America. So they're going to lay people off, and that's what's happening. It's an options market, buy puts. Well, that's what they think. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you for the super chats, guys. I want to restate this too. I appreciate the support. We definitely need it. I'm an upstart channel. This is all fucking coal-fired, ultimately. Good, clean coal. Blue anthracite from the hills of Pennsylvania. Any support is very helpful, obviously, at a time like this. But if you can't, or it makes you nervous at all, please don't. The whole purpose of this show is to give you the information, entertain you, and make you feel a little bit better, give you a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel as best I can. While being realistic about what's going on in the short term, just like we did with COVID. I'm not going to bullshit you, but I am going to point you in the direction of the most salvageable and safe areas that I possibly can and keep you entertained while I do it. So the idea that you would nervously give to the show doesn't help. If my whole thing is just trying to smooth your life over, if it adds any tension, it's no good. So don't do that. and I understand. But if you can afford to be a Patreon subscriber, of course, do that. No, whatever. I keep walking it back because I'm not the only person who gets paid out of the show. We have it's sort of two other employees. I don't even know how to classify how it works. Anyways, and of course, I have a child. All right. So, anyways, these are there are a bunch of things that they think are going to get. There's a belief system right now that Trump is going to give certain companies breaks. Now, there is no reason to believe he's actually going to do that. It's largely like, well, he's gotta. Right? He can't possibly continue down this stupid road. Yes, he fucking can. Yeah, so I'll show you like Jamie Dimon, who people are starting to listen to all of a sudden after he said, my bad. There's a bunch of, Amazon has cut inventory. Let's see. Crops fluctuate as traders seek demand cues on rising tariffs because we don't know where they're going to sell them and whether that'll mean that cheaper goods in the United States, but it probably won't because, again, a lot of these crops are mass crops. Like, get ready, America. We're going to have a lot of extra high fructose corn syrup. Like rivers of high fructose corn syrup like no one's ever seen before, right? This is probably my one of my favorite pictures of the whole thing. Let me put this on the reader so I can show it to you. No, I guess you can't. It takes the picture out. Never mind. You have to see it this way. This is Jerome Powell, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fed chairman. That's not a good look. When the Fed chairman leaves a chamber and looks like he's hoping that Zeus will come down and solve this shit, it's overall not a good sign. This is from Bloomberg. A bleak scenario is unfolding for the Federal Reserve by imposing unexpectedly high comprehensive tariffs on U.S. imports. The White House is threatening a massive shock to the economy's supply side, disrupting production and raising prices at the same time. Let me reiterate that. This is everything we said. Like, again, we need 100 ways to say I told you so. Because this stupid motherfucker is listening to Peter Navarro, who is a nutcase and a fool and high on his own supply, or I don't know if he was denied oxygen at some point. Unless the threat is lifted, the central bank might soon have to choose which part of its dual mandate to prioritize, jobs or low inflation. Worse, it's no longer so clear that the Fed will be allowed to decide for itself. Pressure is mounting for it to support the administration's economic strategy, such as it is, regardless of officials' concerns over inflation. In wrestling with this daunting task, the Fed should be guided above all by one idea. Its most vital asset is the trust it commands as the custodian of stable prices. If this changes, its ability to manage the emerging trade-offs will be shot. In truth, it isn't really a matter of choosing whether it cares more about maximum employment or stable prices. Without the Fed's hard-won credibility, the U.S. will end up with neither. I gotta tell you, kids. This all comes from the idea that what Trump is doing should, will, or could work. It shouldn't, it won't, and it can't. Period. Like, this is just the way you set off a trade war, and you do to the rest of the world's especially the European Union. You do to the European Union what COVID did to the United States economy. A recognition that there is too much reliance on foreign goods. That's what we came through. That's why we have the CHIPS Act. That's why the Infrastructure Act. That's why the American Rescue Package had dealt with all kinds of stuff, including energy and pharmaceuticals and PPE and that kind of stuff, and medical equipment. and especially electronics, the kind you need to keep your airplanes in the air and your fucking tanks rolling and all that kind of stuff primarily, but then also the underlying chips needed for innovation. We recognize that had to happen, and Biden was doing it in a measured way. What Trump's tariffs will do is trigger a COVID-like response in a bunch of other countries, which is we don't need to rely on trade with them. We need to build up our own infrastructure here. There is no reason to move our shit there in the interim because this policy is, it might not be legal. It can be overturned by the next president and more than likely will, no matter who it is. So any government where their prime minister or their president or whomever has a term longer than 3.5 years, it has an element of like, fuck it, okay, this is a great way to marshal my people to start building up our internal bona fides as far as our military industry, our technological industry, our food and food surplus, our trade partnerships with our near allies, the ones who are right on our border, and anybody that the U.S. tells to go fuck itself will reach out to them immediately. Hey, Canada. Hey, Mexico. We understand the U.S. isn't interested in car factories and all that kind of stuff. We can do that, though. So we'll work with you and maybe set up our own car factory there. What do you think? If we were shipping shit from China, what's the difference if we ship it from Mexico? It's closer. It's faster even. And labor costs in Mexico are lower than they are in China now. So we are at a point where they can afford to wait. And I don't, again, Trump has, I mean, I don't even know if he's capable of understanding that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he can, like, he's just sitting he's in a fucking bubble, golfing, talking to, like, rando Republican sycophants, like Laura Loomer. So the question is, like, there used to be a point where you could do audience of one with him. You could get somebody on the air, and it was clear they weren't talking to the audience at Fox News. They were talking to Trump because they knew he was sitting at home, in bed with the fucking remote in his hand and a giant Diet Coke, warm, flat Diet Coke in a stein, basically one of those plastic steins, and with his chest just covered in fucking crumbs. And they were like, hey, buddy, shit ain't working. And he would respond, in theory. They thought he would, or they'd try to get him to. But at this point, maybe they just know they're not reaching him. So at some point, it's going to be, and you're seeing this is where Musk attacked Navarro. They're really seeing, like, I can't get him, so I've got to start pointing out that this guy's a fucking moron. So Nutlick and Navarro are the main targets right now. And over the next week, that's who's going to catch shit, not Trump, because they're viewed as the Trump whisperers. There is, here we go. Let's see. There was, who was it? We put him there. Some people are going to say Trump should answer for mistaken deportation, right? I'll see if I'll see if I can find, and then open that up. And then I'll see if I can find the footage of a lot of the Republicans, just so you know, are all this stuff about them quietly responding or quietly being pissed that Trump is, doing this stupid shit and responding in a way where they're like, like on the download, they know this is bullshit and it ain't gonna work, but they're so cowardly they can't possibly say it in the open. Isn't gonna help. You can't say, well, I said something when you hid who you were when you said it. That's one of the upsides, I got to say, about this being HalSparks Megaworldwide. I'm HalSparks, by the way. Hello. And my name's on all my shit. Okay? When I say something, it's never on the down low. I don't secretly tell my friends in other media circles to go, this is probably what you should say or whatever. But on the, in all honesty, I'm really feeling like this is the wrong way to go. No, I say it openly and outwardly. And nobody gets credit if they walk back their support of Donald Trump in private, but in public they're like, go team, go. It's moronic. Philip Bittner will be joining us in a couple of minutes, I think. He'll be up in a second. We'll be talking about Ukraine and the capture of Chinese soldiers by the Ukrainians, which is kind of spectacular as a story point, no doubt. There is, so they had this morning, let's see if this is still, nope. Oh, wait, there's Phil. I was about to bring something else in, but I will bring him in right here, solo him out. And there he is. Hey, Phil. I've got to give you, I'll let you see what's up on the screen. And there you will. And make sure that I got you in here. And jump over to this thing. There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Philip Bittner joining us from Kyiv. He's got, do you have power? I don't see any lights around your thing. Okay, good. Welcome.
No, she's lit up.
Oh, good. Okay, excellent. So obviously, I don't know how much of this story has bled into, since we spoke on Saturday, as far as the tariffs and all that kind of stuff, if anything's come up there. And also, everybody always wants to know just how you are, your own safety and your own experience right now.
No, I'm fine. It's kind of exhausting, but it is what it is.
Right.
The tariff story, Ukraine is already kind of saying we'll lower our, import duties and tariff. We'll play ball basically.
Yeah.
Of course they will. Of course they would. They kind of have to. So that's not too impactful over here. I think most Ukrainians are pretty much aware that they're gonna. If that's the way Trump wants to play it, then okay.
Right. And again, I don't think they have, not that they don't have any choice, but I think also it gives them leverage that is no skin off their nose. He's given them something where they can give him something. And by contrast, Russia is being more entrenched. It's basically just blown off all the fucking talks. I think one of the things that we've seen over here is that Signalgate has kind of taken a backseat. Certainly, the Epstein files are on a low shelf at some point, and then the peace deal or ceasefire is out the fucking window because Trump can fixate on the trade war he started as effectively cover for this kind of thing. This is a really maybe the greatest example of baffle him with bullshit in the history of the world, where you start a trade war just to cover for the fact that you can't get a ceasefire and your economy isn't magically getting better, and the price of oil wasn't going down until all signs pointed towards a recession, right? And of course then
there's not a lot. It's not a lot of damage,
right,
for the Ukrainian economy. For a variety of reasons. But trade with the United States in terms of commerce and not in terms of military or economic support to keep the country, surviving through the wartime, but actual, day-to-day commerce, they can afford to lower the tariffs here, and they're not going to it's not going to be, and you're right. It gives a talking point for Trump. So no harm, no foul for the Ukrainians.
Right.
It's not really. It's not being too impactful over here. They're more concerned about, the Black Sea
Right.
truce, for example, which Russia keeps breaking.
Yeah.
The fact that we are imminently going to be facing a spring offensive. As a matter of fact, the commander of Ukrainian armed forces says it's already started. That they're in what's called the shaping phase for the Russians. And shaping in military terminology is pretty much what you'd think it is. It's just getting all your ducks in a row, prepping, getting the landscape of the battlefield that you intend to engage upon most advantageous to you. And so Sirski says that he sees that's what the Russians are doing. I'm sure they're trying to get them as much as they possibly can. They hit a large air base called Mozdok and did a lot of serious damage. I don't know if Mozdok was being used as a staging area. That would make sense if that was the case.
Right.
There's the I think you're right. I think the talks are, they're ostensibly still going on, but I don't see any future. Certainly because Putin doesn't want to stop the war. Putin thinks that he still can get more out of the war. And also, of course, as we've discussed previously, he's in a catch-22 because his whole economy is based on being in a war. And he's got hundreds of thousands of men mobilized, getting paychecks, who, if, suddenly the war were to end tomorrow, would be going home to towns and villages with no work, which is a recipe for serious upheaval in Russia. So I don't think those peace talks are going anywhere. I don't think the rare earth stuff is going to go anywhere either. And maybe you're right. Maybe Trump doesn't care so much because everybody is fixated on the trade war that's going on. So, we'll see. Of course, the other big news story here is that they've captured some Chinese soldiers.
Yeah.
And it's still early days on that. It's confused. I have not seen anything, and I checked 10 minutes before we started talking. I have not seen anything that indicates that they were sent here by Beijing's demand, that they weren't kind of like deployed.
Yeah.
Chinese. It looks like these guys are kind of the two that they have, and they say there are more, but they have two in custody currently.
Right.
And at least one of them said, I actually paid a recruiter because I want Russian citizenship. So that's that guy. Yeah, this guy here is the one who reportedly said to the Ukrainians, no, I wasn't sent here. The CCP didn't send me. I wanted to come because I want Russian citizenship. Okay. It's an interesting story. I don't know if it's true or not.
Right.
Maybe.
Also,
there'll be a full investigation.
The other thing too is what would they tell him to say if he, if he gets caught? Like, hey, if you get caught, don't say the CCP sent you, or we'll tell on you and then your family's dead back home. That kind of stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
So North Korea to some degree has the thing like that if you rolled and split, they were going to kill your family back home. So a lot of people are just like, tell them I'm dead. Just add me to the casualty thing and I'll tell you what I know. But these are the two that they did capture in Donetsk. Right. Yeah, in eastern Donetsk.
And they were captured in Donetsk. They say they were trained in Lugansk and that there were other Chinese nationals with them in the training grounds where they were kind of learning, some basic Russian phrases that they would need.
Right. Which is very telling.
And soldier.
Like that's the thing. Like it's the fact that there were other Chinese citizens there with them is the giveaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Zelensky apparently has called that somebody from the Beijing from the Chinese embassy needs to come in for a little chat.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if that's happened today or not.
Come get your boys, right?
Well, yeah, and explain yourself. You got
Yeah.
some explaining to do,
Yeah, right.
Ricky. So that's happening, and that's gonna further a rift that was already there. Ukraine's relationship with China has been really kind of Jekyll and Hyde because they kind of
I gotta
wanted
say,
to use.
yeah, that's the issue you have though is that that's China's relationship with everybody.
Well, yeah, but in terms of what Ukraine would like to see happen, they would like to see Beijing, first and foremost, of course, stop supporting the Russian military by sending them
Right.
weaponry and things like that.
Right.
But then also, they would like Beijing to exert some influence on Putin. So they've kind of had this, and then all the while, China is actually supporting Russia and sending weapons. So it's been contentious. This won't help. And Zelensky has said that they have intelligence that this is a widespread thing, that it's not just 2 Chinese soldiers. There's lots of these guys out there. So that's been consuming a lot of the news here in Ukraine. Another thing that has been attracting a lot of news is this congresswoman. I think she's a congresswoman or
Sparts.
Sparts.
Congresswoman?
Yeah, Victoria
Yeah,
Sparts. Yeah, Sparts.
Victoria Sparts.
Who can never come home. She can never come back to this country. She will never be welcome back in Ukraine. She was born in Ukraine. She was born in the Soviet Union. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she was born in Soviet Ukraine.
Right.
And then left and was in the States, since childhood. And has been spouting off about Ukraine, continuing to fight, and she's disparaged Zelensky and, said all sorts of stuff. And the Ukrainians are furious at her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and so are her constituents. So I guess she can't go home again, even to Ohio, I think she's is. Like a chat room will know. Ohio or Indiana, wherever the fuck she is.
No, it's Indiana. It's Indiana.
Is it? Yeah, Indiana.
And she's the one that got absolutely pilloried at a recent town hall meeting.
I gotta say, there's
the
still
crowd
some
was just screaming at her.
Considering how like maggots operate, the fact that with the accent she has getting elected, like I don't know who was she running against in that district where they were like, oh yeah, the Eastern European lady who's lived her whole life but still has a really heavy accent. I trust her. Who's running against her? Ta-Nehisi Coates? Like, was she just, was it like a literal Black Panther and the town was like, ugh, like they, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, how did they choose? Like, that's it. All right, sure. I don't know. That to me, god damn, so stupid.
Yeah, very strange. Very, very strange. Not the brightest bulb. Not the brightest bulb.
Right. On top of that, like again, I am not somebody who's anti-accent. I've always said that in a lot of cases, somebody has an accent, that means they speak one more language than you do. No matter what, unless you're a polyglot, or like myself or young Philip here. But yeah, I like it. It's amazing to me that like, oh wait, she's dumb too. Like she's. And this idea, like, I fled to this terrible because I love democracy kind of thing. And you're like, well, then why are you supporting the most undemocratic president of our lifetime, you weirdo? He's snatching people. He's using secret police effectively to snatch people off the street and doesn't give a rat's ass if they're American citizens or not. Like, that would be one of the telltale signs.
And if you've seen her in cabinet sessions or in committee sessions, she's just, I mean, she's like Marjorie Taylor Greene if Marjorie Taylor Greene was like a double agent and dropped her accent. Like she's like sent over here by Moscow to pretend to be a Georgia Republican. So she does all this all the time, and then she goes, I gotta take a phone call, y'all, and walks over, picks up the phone and goes, hello? Yes, I have them exactly. What do I want them? Like that's how. That's who Sparts is. Sparts.
Not to be confused with Sparks, which is awesome. Yeah. So we are
So
in a
what
yeah.
else?
Well, I
Um,
mean, obviously you've got the Iranian aspect of it is also another thing. So we are, according to Trump World, 3 weeks away from the deadline that Trump gave this kind of shit or get off the pot threat to them in this letter that he sent them. And my thing is like, he hates Iran. He just had Netanyahu. They hate Iran. They can't stop talking about it. The proxies and the Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, and he just, anything that starts with an H, he just can't stand it, including me. And yet,
and since he's stuck in the 80s, he still thinks that the embassy siege is happening.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's worried about getting Richard Crenna out of there in time, because they've got him hooked up to an old box spring. But he hates Iran, and yet Iran has partnered with Russia against Ukraine, and it's one of those fuses that refuses to blow. You know what I mean? Like that should trip that switch really fucking fast. Like, wait a minute, what? They're partnering with Iran? We fucking hate those guys. They're trying to destroy everything we do in the Middle East. They're trying to wipe out Israel. Like they undermine us. They sent terrorists here to kill us. They literally had a plot to murder me and during the campaign. All they got. Then you hold all that and you're like, oh, but they're friends with Russia. Oh, then we're cool then. Never mind. I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, it's those drones, those Shahed drones. Got to keep getting those Shahed drones.
Yeah.
Even though increasingly they're becoming ineffectual. Ukraine just, I think, yesterday unveiled a new drone that they've developed was developed with the express intent of hunting and shooting down Shaheeds.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting better and better at their drone defense systems. So, I mean, that's primarily what Iran has been giving the Russians is those drones.
Right.
And they're not very good. So, but more than that, I think they give them, I don't want to say legitimacy.
Right.
But, Russia doesn't have a lot of friends and partners.
Right. Well, and again, they've got
Iran and the DPRK
and Trump, right? That's their three. Right. They're counting on it. And so Trump said yesterday, when he was talking with Netanyahu, he was saying that they've begun direct talks. Let me see if I can show you this. Trump says U.S. has begun direct talks over its nuclear program. Now, we've been having quote unquote direct talks about the nuclear program via different channels for a long time. And like his direct talks, I don't even know if he knows the difference between, third party and us, having direct talks with their party. We've been going through that anyways. State Department officials have been doing this for a long time since Trump scuttled the last Iran deal. All last 4 years, there have been attempts to go back 1-to-1 in these situations. So he said Monday that direct talks are underway between the United States and Iran over Tehran's nuclear program. Speaking alongside Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at the White House, Trump said a very big meeting would take place on Saturday. And that it would be at the top level, almost the top level, saying basically he means not the Khomeini, but the president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As somebody who, I was in Geneva when the months and months of discussions between John Kerry and Lavrov and Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, that would have been back in 2014. Yes, it was. It was 2014. We had this sorted out.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
We really did. I mean, that was a good deal. It was a really good deal.
It worked, right. Yeah.
Iran could walk away and, continue to develop, nuclear power for their electricity generation and for their kind of medical research and stuff.
Yeah, they make MRIs and shit like that for most of the areas in the Middle East. Like if you're gonna get an MRI machine, it's gonna come from Iran. Ironically enough, wasn't it like I want to say Betsy DeVos was caught, selling HP printers to them and printer parts years ago, because. In an exchange for other technology that was sold, through a crisscross across the market, it's so fucking gross. Israel struck Iran's air defenses around the alleged nuclear facilities in October, with the idea that Trump is basically just giving them a total taking his hands off the reins entirely. Going
and
forward.
We have a whole bunch of B-2 stealth bombers
in the area,
sitting in Diego Garcia right now. And I was speaking with Malcolm Nance, who I'm buddies with, about not talking. I was DMing with him about this.
Yeah,
and he made the point: you don't put too many B-2 bombers in one place together because it's risky. We don't have a lot of them. We have. We have a handful, but these are very expensive and they're very high maintenance, and there are all sorts of reasons why you would not want to lump more than one or two together. And I think Malcolm told me there are 7 in Diego Garcia. Something's up. Yep. Something is definitely up.
Well, and again, there's a situation where even in that situation, you got 7 in the air. You're only going to use 3 of them, and the other 4 are for backup in other areas. So the idea would be, if you're going to hit Iran with Israel backing you up, or if Israel's going to hit them with us backing them up, the other B-2s are there to level and whatever's left of Hezbollah, arguably the standing Syrian government, and I don't see them hitting Hamas in some area, but the Houthis they would just level that whole area. That, citizens be damned. They're just gonna, they would just wipe that area out in one, in Trump's shock and awe. Anything not to release the Epstein files. This would be one of the most violent wag the dogs in human history. Whoop.
It's just insane. Oh
yeah, that's just
something happened.
Cop. It just sounded like I heard a siren, so I immediately.
Oh yeah, it's probably just a cop outside, just on the main street there. It's look. Mm-hmm. You're right. I think he does need a distraction. We'll see how that's a really dangerous game. Obviously, it's clearly people are going to die and stuff like that. But we've talked about this in the past when they killed Soleimani. Mm-hmm. That was one of the main things that started Hamas down the road of going to October 7th.
Right.
So it's just he's.
Yeah.
Oh, he is so dangerous. And
stupid. And also and he's got people around him who are all kind of, I kind of call them the cheap thought brigade. None of them, they're, I used to give them credit that it was a mile wide and an inch deep as far as their thinking. It was very visible and they would, wear it on their sleeve, but there was no depth to what they were talking about. Certainly Hegseth falls in that direction. Navarro falls in that direction. It is different with Nutlick because I feel like he's literally subversive. He is trying to benefit his bonds that he has a hold on by doing this kind of stock market decimation, and he's sitting on a ton of cash, so he can wait and buy the bottom, and he's still making money on the bonds that he has at the same time. So he could pull profits when Trump lets him know, I think we're going to do it next Wednesday. He can pull profits from his bond stuff. And that's what people are going to be watching, by the way. People should be watching Nutlick's trades, if they exist, and anybody around Trump in that circle. Most of the polling, interestingly, around Trump was kind of slapdash. Ipsos had him shitting the bed at -10, plus 10 on his disapproval rating. But RMG and what was the other? J&L Partners had him up 3 or whatever before Liberation Day. Since Liberation Day, the Morning Consult has him, his disapproval is up 6. Navigator Research has it up 9, and YouGov has it up 7. And this is since Liberation Day. They have been checking in with voters, and he's just shit the bed everywhere. Like, it was already not good. He was already in negative territory. The question is does he, how does he react to this stuff? How does, does he double down because he's an egomaniac? And that brings us to, at some point, the conversation about the ceasefire is going to come back up. It kind of has to. Like, he'll get bored of just bullshitting people about manufacturing, and somebody's going to ask him a question like, whatever happened to that whole fucking ceasefire deal? It seems like Putin just keeps giving you the finger and you keep sitting on it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we're gonna start seeing some images coming out of Ukraine that are going to be pretty disturbing because no matter what, the Russian spring offensive is going to be intense. It looks like they're from what Syrskyi, General Syrskyi said today, apparently, it looks like they're going to head towards Kharkiv, and Sumy, which leaves the southern part of Ukraine along the Black Sea, hopefully relatively safe. But we'll see what happens with Kharkiv. We'll see what happens with Sumy. Kharkiv has been getting hit really, really bad. I've got some friends out there who tell me it just really sucks. But they're not going to take it. They can't. They don't have the manpower to take Kharkiv. They could make. They could create a mass exodus, which would then put further strain on Ukraine and even refugee centers outside of Ukraine. If they really, really wanted to pound Kharkiv, but even if they pound it, the civilians will leave, the army will stay, and it'll just be a fortress. Right. I mean, the place is built for, I believe it's a 1.7 million population city, something to that effect, 1.5, 1.7, something like that. And that's not relative, that's not important when it comes to like defense of the city because of the population, but it gives you a measure of the size of the city. And Kharkiv is very industrial. It's their version of Pittsburgh. It's a steel town. There are factories everywhere. There are foundries. The Russians, if they actually did try to take Kharkiv, as opposed to maybe just besieging it and trying to wait them out or something like that, but if they actually tried to go into the city and take it, they'd lose another 100, 200,000 men. Easy. And that's just me off the top of my head. I mean, it could be worse. And I don't know if he can do that. I don't know if Putin can get away with doing that. I mean, look at the body count right now. I think we're at 928,000 casualties. So
I'm trying to look up the actual new number currently. But we're rolling towards 1 million. It would be interesting that the date on Trump's alleged Iran red line will probably be right about the spot where Russia hits 1 million dead. Yeah,
estimates have been around mid-June, early July. That's what they've been saying, but it might be sooner than that. We'll have to see. Especially depending on how intense this offensive is going to be. But it's just Trump's policies failed here. Putin doesn't want to stop the war, so he's not gonna. And Trump clearly doesn't have the influence. I've seen occasionally I see smatterings of like, "Ooh, Trump's getting really angry with Putin," and I'm like, "No, he isn't. No, he isn't. No, he's not." That's not how that relationship works.
I agree. I do think there is a selfish frustration that Trump feels because he probably feels like he was misled in this situation, and it ekes out because he only has like two modes in his life, like egomaniacal psychic event where he's just like absorbing the love of maggotry and his own belief in that his farts don't stink, and then disassociative I don't give a shit. Like those are his two windows. And when stuff starts to irritate him because it was supposed to be fixed, he starts throwing around. Whenever he's blaming Biden right now, that's him trying not to blame Putin. I think, especially when it comes to this, like, he would have to call out Putin. So by the way, the EU is going to try and reach 2 million artillery shells for Ukraine this year. That would outpace the production that Russia has. Clearly, and Ukraine is still making their own. So there's these dual tracks that are going on. The other thing, let's see if I can do this. Where is it going? Yeah. This is the other thing. These Ukraine received breakthrough the glide bombs that stopped the Russian army. These are the Ukraine. What do they call the powerful system? The UMPK equipped bombs. That disrupt satellite navigation of Ukraine's created a powerful electronic system called Lima that disrupts the satellite navigation of Russian UMPK bombs, turning the once formidable weapon into an inaccurate and often useless munition. It's a breakthrough that effectively eliminated one of Russia's key tactical advantages on the front lines. That's these things, and effectively
they're what they are is they are dumb bombs.
Yeah.
With very, very large warheads. That what they do is they fly them in with strategic bombers. Mm-hmm. They drop them. They've attached a new kind of wing and a control system so that that they do actually glide, but they're just bombs. They're just like 500-pound bombs, sort of things. That they strap on a bunch of wings and they do a command information connection. And what the Ukrainians apparently and they're devastating. These things are terrible weapons. They are huge explosions, and they create a vacuum. They're so huge that they create a vacuum, and people are killed by that in the blast radius.
Yeah, it turned you inside out. Basically,
things.
It's awful. Yeah,
terrible things. And they've been a plague on Ukrainian front lines, but also they drop them in cities.
Yeah,
they drop them in Chasiv Yar and Bakhmut and places like that. But apparently this new development is that the Ukrainians have found some way where it disconnects the satellite control and they just drop out of the sky.
Well, it's
not
pretty
just
amazing.
That it cuts off the communication. They do something else to
it overwhelms it,
control, and it just
they just kind of like flip out, and it glitches their internal navigation to where they just kind of drop like a rock, and don't go off. That's the other thing too, is that because their target systems, while they are dumb bombs, they are dumb glide bombs, and they do trigger at a certain point so that they go off when they're supposed to, not early or whatever. Or they don't bump into a drone and blow up in the sky. You want it to actually make it all the way to the ground before it explodes, so they can't just run interference drones everywhere or shoot it with a handgun, and it sets it off because it's triggered that way. So the Lima thing uses digital suppression, which combines jamming, which obviously locks it up from its guidance stuff, spoofing, which gives it false coordinates. That was the thing I think you were talking about. Yeah, and then it uses the relay in it as a point of cyber attack on the navigation centers themselves. And this is what makes this fucking amazing. And it's so smart. But when you're sending in a bomb or a glide bomb like that, you can steer it a little bit. You need GPS coordinates, and you need a back and forth, A/B communication with the thing to control it, see where it is, all that kind of stuff. they have figured out a way to jam these things and hijack effectively the relay of these things as they, as they grab them and fry the system the guy's using to fly the thing. So it doesn't just take the bomb out of the sky, which is amazing. It ricochets. It basically VPNs its way through the bomb, for lack of a better phrase, if for people to understand in the chat room. And the person running it gets their system fried. And they are doing similar things with drones, and the Shahed drones specifically. They are, that the relay for those kind of things, those are more directly controlled. And they're using this Lima system to do this kind of ricochet and there's a lot of, in the drone warfare, there's a lot of like taking over the controls of another drone and spoofing them, and that stuff's been around for a long time. But it's this relay bounce that's the impressive part, that is just kind of like, holy shit, way to, like, just stuff of the future.
Well, yeah, and another related story that kind of runs concurrently with that. Apparently, there was a report that somehow leaked out onto, I think it was Russian Telegram channels,
right?
So apparently the Russians got their hands on a Bradley, one of our M2 Bradleys that we sent over there, or we sent over here.
Yeah.
And it was leaked somehow out onto Russian Telegram, this document of them reverse engineering stuff from the Bradley and being like, oh my God, this is leaps and bounds about better than what we do. We need to start taking into account some of the technology that's in this Bradley into our next generation of infantry fighting vehicle.
Right.
But you got to realize the Bradleys that we sent over here are 30 years old.
Yeah.
They're Desert Storm.
Yeah.
That's Desert Storm.
They're not
technology.
top of the line. So the fact that they're flipping out about
old.
those things is hilarious.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. They think it's like whiz bang genius stuff, and our guys are like, we moved on from this a long time ago.
Yeah.
If I read correctly, they were most impressed with what's called reflexive armor,
right?
Which is armor that has a little explosive charge in it, and when something is coming at the Bradley, it explodes first, and it takes the inertia out of whatever projectile is coming to the Bradley. And the Russians are like, "Oh my God, this is this is genius. We got to start doing this ourselves."
You're right.
And we're like, we had that years and years ago. So, yeah, it's second best military in the world. My took us.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to try and bring up the other thing too, is the artillery kill count that the Ukrainians are coming up with right now in around Lyman. Lyman good?
Lyman.
The Jaffa region. I don't know if you remember Lyman good from Blue Thunder. Never mind. Anyways, the Ukrainian forces, according to this, shattered Russian artillery in record-breaking numbers, crippling Moscow's plans for a massive offensive in the Lyman sector. Now, as General Drapatyi and the elite 3rd Assault Corps assemble a ferocious defense line, this is obviously written from the RFU News point of view. The Russian goal is to advance to the Oskil and eliminate the major Ukrainian bridgehead there. To achieve this, they are mobilizing a massive number of troops and equipment to the sector, aiming to establish a significant numerical superiority over them. However, Russian offensive planning relies heavily on massive artillery barrages to pave the way for mechanized and infantry assaults. To take advantage of this, Ukrainians have prioritized the destruction of Russian artillery, aiming to disrupt Russian preparations by preventing them from conducting large preparatory barrages, which is just smart. They have basically learned they basically, when you fought the big boss in a video game long enough, you know what the attack point is. Like you know after a while, you're like, okay, if he attacks 3 times, I attack 3 times, and then I have to duck and move over here because he's going to use his big weapon, and then I move back. It's a massive oversimplification, but for Christ's sake,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should not let's not underestimate the Russians. I mean, this offensive is not going to be fun.
No.
They're going to cause a lot of damage, but
Right.
I don't think they have the means to do what it is they intend to do. And they certainly, they're not going to be able to get to a place where Putin could say, that's all we wanted. We won.
Yep.
And stop
Yeah.
the war, sort of thing, and then he could ramp down his situation. That ain't going to happen.
Well, that seems to be where Trump thinks this is going to go eventually. That
yes,
they get as easily bored as he does. It really does seem like that's what he's hoping
I think
for.
Trump is hoping that. I do. I think Trump is hoping that the Russians will have some decisive victories on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Then he will go to Zelensky and he will say, hey, you gotta stop,
right?
And put pressure on Zelensky, not realizing that this country there's no way that like the armed forces of Ukraine would accept. Just like a capitulation, which is what this would be.
Yeah.
Zelensky would be in real deep trouble. So, and rightfully so. Of course. There's been too much blood, too much sacrifice. So, and you got a lot of Ukrainian guys out there who, in some ways, it's the same problem Putin has. Not as dire, and I think the armed forces of Ukraine are far more disciplined than the Russians are.
Right.
But, you do have a problem you have a very large armed, military. You got a lot of guys out there with really some finely honed skills. And as Zelensky suddenly said, I'm going to bend the knee to Trump and we'll give them everything east of the Dnieper River. The Ukrainians would be like, no, we're not going to do that. And Zelensky would be in a lot of trouble. I mean, I've been seeing his only other competitor, I think, realistically, is General Zaluzhny, who was
to the right of him,
Ukrainian military.
I mean, you could argue he's more.
He is more willing to commit to the war, than even Zelensky is, I think. And we've seen him getting a little bit. He's drawing the spotlight onto himself. After he was dismissed by Zelensky, controversially, and replaced by Syrskyi. He was given the ambassadorship in London, which admittedly is kind of like a let's get him off somewhere where he's not going to be, getting too much attention kind of thing. And he hasn't been. But recently, in the last 3 or 4 days, he's been saying a couple of things and getting the spotlight drawn onto him. So, who's to say? But Zelensky, I cannot believe, unless the Russians, commit some sort of rout where they're just absolutely slicing through the Ukrainian military.
Well, if he's got to choose between the civilians of his entire country and something. But even then you've got the Europeans stepping in, knowing full well that that's what's happening, and they wouldn't stand for it either. So there is. I
mean, the French have openly said that if Kiev were to be threatened again, that they would they would seriously consider a no-fly zone. Right. And then we're off to the races. Then we're looking at a full-scale continental war between Belarus and Russia versus everybody. Maybe Hungary would break ranks. I don't think so, but it would. This has been about containment for the last 3 years. As terrible as this has been for the Ukrainians. The fact that it hasn't spilt over. I mean, this is why this Chinese thing has a lot of people going, hey, wait a minute. you're expanding. This is
Right.
an escalation. And
Right.
all throughout the war, the talk from the West has been, oh, we don't want to escalate things. We don't want to escalate things,
Right.
and that's just talking about sending. Sending over material
Right.
and doing training in the West. Now suddenly you've got Chinese soldiers and DPRK soldiers on the Russian side. So why not French soldiers? Why not?
Yeah.
So they've been trying to contain it. So far, it has been contained, but there's still real potential for this to spiral much more
Right.
drastically. And we should be thanking the Ukrainians for containing the Russians here. Because,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, suddenly you got French pilots in Mirage planes doing, no-fly zones and things like that.
Mhm.
One of those French pilots gets shot out of the sky, dies. The
Yep.
Germans are like massively beefing up their arms production, and buying lots more weaponry, which is something obviously the Germans have been reluctant to do given their history, and
Right.
the rest of Europe has kind of gone along with that.
For a good
But now
reason.
you even see,
yeah,
like,
I can understand their reticence.
Yeah,
Right.
with good reason.
Yeah.
But now you even see certain sectors of like Polish political leaders saying, "Yeah, Germany, rearm." Those are the Poles.
Yeah.
The Poles have a really ugly history with Germany when it gets big
Yeah.
and strong and militaristic. So
Right.
even the Polish are saying, "Yeah, Germany, step it up." So, and obviously most of this, a huge chunk of this, is because we're seemingly withdrawing. I mean, Hexeth, I think, has been talking about there's a logistical camp in Poland where they bring all the weaponry that's then going to be transferred into Ukraine, gather it all together, and then they send it into Ukraine. And I guess they're all but closing that base. So that's a major logistical hub that's being
Right.
shut down. The Europeans aren't dumb. They're not blind. They see this happening. So,
Right.
I mean, I'm distressed by it because I'm a firm believer in the transatlantic alliance. I think it's far
Sure.
better when we're together.
Yeah. What a nutty thought.
but-
By the way, Trump just, I was trying to load this in the, so that you could see it, but Trump just posted on Truth Social that he's raising the tariffs on China to 125% after they raised him 34 and then 85. So this is, and then he ended it with this weird little statement that he puts at the end of things, like he's filing like paperwork with an HOA. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I swear to God, it's like it autofills it or something. But based on the lack of respect that China has shown the world markets, right? It's not him that's showing lack of respect for the world markets. It's China that's doing it. I'm hereby raising the tariff charge to China by the United States to 125%, effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called to negotiate a solution, and my strong suggestion brutality anyway, as form that I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff rate during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. So he blinked today. Trump blinked. The stock market route caused Trump to fucking blink. And this 90-day pause, which Musk was yelling at him about, everybody else, he is effectively, now it's just a trade war with China again, and everybody else is lowered to 10, except the ones that are already 10%, which is going to add cost to a bunch of things anyways, and nobody can plan out past 90 days. If you can't work this shit out, it's just stupid. So that will rebound the markets today, no doubt, for everybody that doesn't get their goods from China. But he blinked. The Trump put happened just now. And believe me, like everybody's not going to bring up the fact that he fucking blinked, but he blinked because they're worried that he will reverse course. Like if you call him out for blinking, then he'll go, no, I didn't, and he'll put shit back on. So everybody's going to pretend this worked because the Mad King is insane. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
I just don't know. I mean, it's, you couldn't, lots of people have been making the point that even, if he is not compromised by the Kremlin, he could not be doing a better job for them.
Right.
That's
why he's not an agent. He's an asshat. He's exactly the moron you need. Like, give him credit. They know how to pick idiots. Because and the other reason too is that he's got a couple of Senate seats, including John Husted, that are on the fucking edge, and people are like, senators are calling him and going, dude, you are going to wreck the shit. And by the way, might I add, 4 hours ago, he said, this is a great time to buy. I put this in the chat earlier, that he said this is a great time to buy. And then he announces a couple hours later that he's going to put a 90-day pause on these things and jack up stuff with China. Now, it fucks Apple stock, I would guess. I mean, we'll check in on things or whatever. But it is abundantly clear that, that whole this is a great time to buy. I'm sure before he posted that on Truth Sinkhole, he went straight to his buddies and went, and
oh yeah,
and they, he's like, give you a couple hours, but you should probably start buying back in right about now. Yeah. So, yep. Dow just went up 6%.
The level of kleptocracy.
Yeah. Now, will it go back to where it was?
Rebounding.
No. But it's rebounding. Yeah. It's gone up 2,000 points since that statement just came out. East Coast 118.
Well, the Dow has lost far too much for it to recover fully.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a quick look at my portfolio. Let's see if I'm getting, okay. Yeah, It's rebounding.
Yep. And I didn't all the stuff I have is
going up.
If you have long stocks, that's what it's going to do anyways, because that's where people are going to jump back in, is stuff that's going to survive. But the question will be, does that benefit Tesla, or does it just reset back to the Tesla sucks zone for a lot of these idiots? He's gone up 13%, and then everybody's giving him it's a hold. Analysts are saying, a hold, but he's at 250.
Stupid.
It's so stupid. Yeah.
It's so irresponsible and stupid.
Yep.
And just the man, everything he touches goes to shit.
Yep.
And
he's creating this website. I'll tell you what, he did this. I guarantee that Musk was yelling at him, and he said, I'm going to pull this off for the stuff that you need, and I'm going to put a hole in there for the stuff you need from China. And I guarantee you, he told Elon Musk right before it happened.
Oh, of course he did.
Yeah.
Of course he did. He told Musk, he told Bezos, he told...
Yeah. He blinked.
Yeah, sure.
He blinked, and he gave his buddies a heads up. That's what this is. And again, I've said this all along, like, you can trigger, if you're in the president can trigger a market collapse simply by falling out of his chair and stubbing his toe, much less doing something as fucked up as this. And if it's all about your buddies making money, nobody's going to give a rat's ass. If it goes back to where it was, because you'll hear correction talk all over Bloomberg. It needed to release some steam, and things were overvalued and blah, 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 blah. But really, it was just a mask for you to make your buddies who missed the fucking COVID dip a bunch of money. What's weird? What's weird is
yeah, I'm watching the Dow right now. Look at that.
Yep. Yep. It's exactly what's happening.
100% market manipulation.
Yep.
That's insider fucking trading right there.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
And he'll get to do it every 90 fucking days.
This is just what I was about to say, is the fact he'll do it again.
Yeah.
He'll do it again. He's gonna the next 2 years, well, the next 4 years, really, unless we really turn the Senate and the House and properly impeach his ass.
Right.
But presuming he gets his entire 4-year term, it's going to be like this. Yeah, every 90 days we're just going to be doing this crazy.
Right. And he knows
wave.
he knows it'll go down just when the date's coming up. And then in the lead up, people go, oh shit, here he comes again, and he hasn't made the deals he wants to, and then bing. Or he'll start lying that the deals are made and put this in the rearview mirror, and then we're back to Signalgate and all this other shit with his buddies just, and especially Don and Eric making a shit ton of money on the back end. It is, but he blinked. And I would say like the biggest, the real story here is they got to him. Like the business leaders that have been calling him because yesterday, no fucking way. We're not going anywhere. They're here to stay, eat shit.
Well,
right?
Wasn't it yesterday where he was saying, oh, they're calling me and they're begging. Oh, they're kissing my ass so much. Was that yesterday or the day before?
Yeah.
I forget. It all starts to blur together. But this whole kind of like, oh, they're kissing my ass. And then 2 days later or a day later, whatever it is, he plays.
Right. Yep. Well, and that was exactly it. Like, just, panic the suckers, clear them out. This is a great way to drown a bunch of, investors. And then he fucking blinks, and you're like, okay, now we know what his plan will be. Next time, we just assume there's going to be a blink. He doesn't have the appetite for it. It's bullshit.
God.
We know this is really about China. Yeah.
1:10 p.m. He must have done it. That's when he put out the tweet, isn't it?
Yep. That's when the Truth Social thing hit.
1:10 p.m. Is that when you drop the social media? Because that's when the Dow starts to spike.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
right.
For the love of God.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in an oligarchy. We live in a goddamn oligarchy. We gotta.
Yeah.
Oof,
and I guarantee the question right now, the next question for all Democrats is, what did the president know and when did he know it? And that's true of everybody in his administration. What are their stock buys looking like? What are, Republican senators, are they getting a little like icon on their fucking phone, like a, fucking orange with an eggplant, right? And then that's when they're like, oh shit, bye. Like, because I guarantee that stuff is happening. Guarantee.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are in a oligarchy and a kleptocratic one as well.
Right.
Oh, yep. I mean, I'm happy to see my portfolio going up. Sure, of course, but this is all bullshit.
Right.
Just follow the money.
Right. That was. That's right. Somebody just put it in office. But again, I will say. The other story that they need to do is he blinked. He fucking blinked. He does have a floor. He does not have the stomach to ride this shit completely out. And he did a bunch of damage, and a bunch of people aren't going to forgive him for it because they're still under this 10% tariff, which is going to fuck a lot of small to medium-sized businesses. There isn't going to be a deal anytime soon that doesn't affect them this year. And if they're like, well, we'll move the factory here next year, and then it'll start building, and then 5 years from now we'll have one, right? There are a bunch of people who are going to go under, and he's not going to stop doing shit like this. That's the other thing. Yeah. He is not going to stop fucking around.
As long as he can get away with it. As long as he can continue to get away with it. He'll keep doing it.
Yes, this is. I talked about
we need those midterms.
Yep, I talked about him shaking the crab bucket to make sure that anybody who's a small investor or starting a business or whatever, the upper class that he's part of does the elites that they decry, that they all consider themselves elites. Like, look at that, we mock the elites and they applaud us. That they sit on top of this crab bucket. And we're the crabs trying to work our way out of the bucket. And then every so often you just shake the fucking bucket. and everybody falls back down inside it. And that's what this is. That's what this is. And now they're just going to do it as a part of manipulation, direct manipulation. Yeah. So, by the way, we're nearly at the tail end of the show, and boy, what a wrap up it has been. Philip Bittner has his own channel. Please follow him on YouTube and support the channel and the podcast. The podcast is called On the Edge. New episodes every Sunday. He's in Kyiv, so you don't have to be bringing a humanity to the story that you're not going to get anywhere else as well. So please subscribe to his channel. We
had a very good episode last week that everybody should watch regarding the 3-year anniversary of the liberation of the town of Bucha, just north of Kiev, and subsequently the discovery of all the war crimes that were committed there. It's not the easiest thing to watch. It's a pretty disturbing conversation, but it's an important one. So that was our episode last week. And yeah, I encourage everybody to go and watch it. You may have to take it in chunks. But it's definitely worth watching, because then you'll understand why it is the Ukrainians are fighting as hard as they can, because the brutality in Bucha was just beyond the pale. Yeah, unbelievable. So thank you so much for being with us, Phil. And we will see you on Saturday. I will be in Nashville, Tennessee, home of the Patsy Cline Exploding Winnebago. But we will be able to do our regular show as such there. I don't know if you know. Do you remember that whole story? Remember the Winnebago that parked in front of the AT&T building in downtown Nashville and played Patsy Cline over and over until it blew up? It was like a few years ago. It was like, the most random fucking like obtuse terror event we've ever had. That was. Never been to Nashville. It's a great place. I have family there. I've spent multiple Thanksgivings and Christmases there over the course of my life, and so it's nice. I'll get to see a couple of cousins this weekend. I'll get to go to Grun Guitars and look at guitars I can't afford. It'll be a good time. But anyways, take care of yourself, brother. Be safe, and we'll see you next time. Absolutely. All right, there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Philip Bittner joining us from Kyiv. Give him a round of applause in the chat room, if you will. And what'd I say? What the fuck did I say, ladies and gentlemen? What'd I tell you? I said there, and I hope that was Phil taking his microphone off, so he's okay. He didn't fall down a flight of stairs. Awesome, Stevens. I'll see you in Nashville. Is Phil joining Substack? We should get him there. I think he should. I agree. We'll make that move. And we'll talk to him on Saturday about that if he doesn't already have one set up. Because he can also live stream there, as I do. But it's a little complicated because it's vertical, and you have to be able to do both at once. So anyways, I got to run, and I will see you guys this afternoon. And then tomorrow's show as normal, and then I get to take a red eye to Nashville, and I'll be there Friday morning, but early. And all shows should be as normal. I don't think I have any overlap this weekend with shows and stuff, which would be... It's like an old-fashioned stand-up weekend as far as the timing of it. It's so nice, because that was the cool thing. Is like I do this show, and then even if I go on tour again where I'm doing stand-up weekends in clubs, eventually, once I find an agent I can stand, I can still do my show and do stand-up at night and that kind of stuff. Like a boy can dream, can't he? And the world just keeps getting funnier. All right, I'll see you guys this afternoon. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Boy, is the news going to be nuts today. Holy shit. Hit that like. Share the show. Annoy the maggot in your life. Here come the credits. Come on, credits. Let's do it. There you go. And... rocket ship. There it goes. I feel like I need a bigger ship for the end. Don't you? Let's see what I got. What I got.